This is Training Insights, episode 28. Hi, folks, and welcome to Training Insights. My name is Kevin McGowan. This podcast, of course, brought to you by Training Magazine. Today I'm going to be speaking with Kyle Morton. He's the founder of Hapyak. They're an interactive video development company, and they really have their finger on the pulse of something pretty cool. He is an expert in terms of video and how I guess the world has changed in terms of communicating with video. Obviously, with the internet and all the things that come with it, we've really changed how we broadcast, how we communicate, and that can affect your audience, whether you're an individual producer of video or whether you're a corporate entity. So let's go off to Boston, and we're going to talk with Kyle Morton.
And Kyle Morton, welcome to Training Insights.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's really nice to talk to you. And you're down around Boston currently, correct?
We are. We're right downtown Boston.
And you are the founder, and forgive me, it's not CEO, COO? No. What's your title at Hapyak?
No. Thankfully not CEO. We've got a great guy, Mark Portu, who fills that role. But I am the founder, and I'm the Chief Product Officer.
Thank you. CPO.
Yeah, that's right. So I get to kind of hold the reins of the roadmap and how we're, impacting our customers directly through the product.
Right. Can you tell me a bit about how you founded Hapyak and what the niche was that you're trying to fill with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm one of those people unfortunately afflicted with the video bug, right? So I've just loved, I've loved just how impactful communicating on the web with video is, right? And how it's kind of infiltrated every bit of communication, right? With YouTube kind of taking over the world and the fact that you can't go to a website or try to learn about a service where video isn't, right in front of you.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is my background is actually technical. I started as a software engineer, and for a long time, all of the technology behind all of those things has been a mess.
Right.
Right.
Not to put too fine a point on it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there have just been real problems to solve, right? Real practical problems to solve. Everything from, the internet itself, the connections people have, the technology and codecs to encode it. But the thing that I was inspired about to start Hapyak was the impact on organizations and people who now had to use video because the demand was there, but had no background in video and were not familiar with or comfortable with the tools. And they really, I wanted to be able to provide and democratize some of those tools and provide solutions for folks who used video to perform their job functions or to communicate, but didn't have that, background or inclination to understand, multi-track video editing and, that whole verified world.
Yeah, it's funny because, I've been watching this evolve a lot over the last 10 years, and you're right, it's video everywhere, on every website. LinkedIn, where I frequent, it's just constant, streaming videos and people making, either advertising or promotional stuff, or just, like video blogs and stuff like that. It's everywhere. But I think you're right. What people have learned is it's easy to make a video, but it's hard to make a good video.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely true. And it's not always easy to make a video. That's one thing that I've learned too. Like technically, yeah, you're right. The barriers have come just way down, so it is accessible. But there are still like organizational and psychological barriers to being on camera, right?
Yeah.
That they necessitate different techniques and different levels of comfort. But it is inevitable, right? Like it's eating every type of communication, and it will only continue to.
Well, it's not something that's been in everybody's, skill set or schooling, right? Okay, well, great. You can, if you're going to be a writer or some kind of content developer, instructional designer, you can design stuff, you can write stuff, but they never tell you how to look when you're on camera. Like that's a new thing, right?
It's true. So I really firmly believe that we're in this, we're just in this transition period organizationally as like millennials are coming into their own and getting kind of promoted. In my experience, at least, that kind of generation of folks have no problem being on camera.
They've been on camera their whole lives, right? It's like the Truman Show.
It's absolutely true. Like right? Like the primary communication is through social apps where you're, taking short videos and pictures of yourself constantly. And so, man, when we've just worked with several companies and you can see that there are, maybe the established director level generation of people who are happy to use an agency to produce videos. And that's the way that they've done it. That next crop of folks, and I'll say a lot of the people working at the agencies, are that, younger generation who, it's like a duck to water. They're very comfortable with it, and they constantly are just increasing the volume of video-based communication and are very comfortable to do it. So it's still, it's one of these big macro trends, right? Yeah. As millennials move into those higher up positions in the workforce where they have more influence strategically around these things, but that's happening right now.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is once you get the kind of production, and regardless of your generation or how you approach it, you get the production, then it's about the interactive layers you can put on top of a video or within a video. Right. So how do you advise people to approach kind of that interactive layer?
So really there are kind of two ways that I try to get people to think about it. Yeah. One is there's a lot of, and again, just quite frankly, there's a lot of hubris in video producers who, because they produce this content and they care so much about it, and we all think about it and what's the content, how to present it. And then the expectation is, to everyone who's going to view it, the expectation is sit down, shut up, and watch my video. Right. Right? And that's what we all want, in a way. We want people to take in what we just created. Yeah. But that's not how the internet works, right? And these internet-enabled devices are how people are consuming this stuff. And so their expectation is they can skip around. They can jump to the content they want, that the content itself might prompt them with a decision point or engage them in ways, right? It's all media is tappable, all media is clickable, and all of those techniques are used to good effect in every other digital scenario. So video is kind of the odd man out if it's not interactive, because that's really what somebody's expectation is on these devices and even on their, web-enabled desktop. Right. So that's the first thing. I think it's just kind of recognizing the medium itself is not a television. It demands interactivity because that's the user's expectation. So respect their time. Interactivity respects the viewer. And then the other side of it is, I guess, recognizing what we said a couple minutes ago, right? Video, in cases, if you're using an agency, it can be more expensive. It can be more time consuming. Again, the barriers have come way down, but still compared to a piece of text, right? Yeah. There's more of an investment. And so you actually need data, and your management structure, right, wants you to be able to produce data to say, hey, this investment is yielding a result that means something. And if you have interactivity, that means you have user behavioral data that you can capture, create a report, and show it to your boss to prove how effective it is. Right. So go ahead. Yeah. Just saying that's it. Like, the video itself inspires people, but it's the context to your organization, how you're going to justify your investment, and then just realizing the context that people consume it. That's the expectation, is that it respects them right? It empowers them to direct their own experience, and that's when it can really become effective.
Right. Well, it's interesting. You talked about how to track people's interactions with the content. I mean, with the web, for years you've been able to easily track, who clicked where, and get kind of hotspots on a web map kind of thing, and see where their eyes are going and where their clicks are going. With video, it used to be, you had your YouTube or Vimeo video up there. You could see number of plays and maybe number of completions, and it would be higher at the beginning and lower at the end, obviously. Generally, there'd be kind of a trend there. But now,
That's
the
right.
expectation, you want to know a lot more than just how many people click play. You want to know what part they clicked within that kind of multimedia interactive experience, where they clicked on, where they went from there, why they were doing it. So there's a lot more granularity in that data now that's available.
Yeah, it's true. And so actually about half of our business is with marketers.
Right.
So not just, learning content, but there's a really thin line between content marketing and learning, right, and training. So it's a thin line, but what we've seen is the marketers demand and expect really fine-grained data. Yeah. And they're really disciplined about making data-driven decisions to influence their content strategy. Mm-hmm. Because, imagine you're a marketer and all you know are how many page views do I have and how long was somebody on my site, right? That's ridiculously thin amount of data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So a marketer needs to know, okay, in my navigation menu, what links did they click on? I put 3 offers on that page. Which creative did they respond to? Right. Which actually prompted that action. They want to know how many of these people are repeat visitors, and is there a behavioral difference on subsequent sessions? Mm-hmm. So we kind of took that set of expectations, which is well defined in the web world, and we collect that across every video as well. So all those questions can be answered in data around the video experience by just using these techniques. Mm. So you really can then see, one of the things that we've boiled down from all of that is we've noticed a really interesting behavioral change when interactive video is used. So we've got a concept called an activated user. So an activated user means someone who has interacted in a previous session, right? So one time they came along and they interacted with the video in a previous session. Mm-hmm. The interaction from that previous session could be literally anything. And we haven't talked about the features, but it can be an extremely simple type of interaction. Right. But on subsequent sessions, they watch 50% more video content. Mm-hmm. They are 115% more interactive, meaning how much they utilize interactive capabilities in the future, the other features that they take advantage of. Right. And when used for compliance and testing, they actually score better consistently. Huh. So it's after all of these various techniques, what we've really found from the data is one click. If you can provide simple types of interactivity to get people to just interact one time, they're more likely to do everything you want to, and you'll have a broad base of KPIs that you can then, prove with the data, share with your management team to justify, and do it in a way that, even though it's learning content, it makes sense to everybody because it's the type of data that's used in other, marketing job functions. Right.
It's interesting you say it can kind of essentially come down to that one click to get the interest or engagement up. Because one of the things I was thinking I was going to ask you, and now I will, the difference between kind of the learning environment and the marketing environment. Yes, they're kind of two sides of a coin, I guess, in terms of technology. But when is it too much interaction? In learning, I've always kind of learned that you can, there's lots of ways to get them to interact and kind of move through. Kind of a choose your own adventure style thing might be effective in some cases. Marketing, maybe not so much. I'm assuming that's not really my wheelhouse. I'm curious, when is it too much?
Oh yeah, it's the first mistake people make is they start by doing too much almost all the time, right?
Here's 5,000 things you can click on, and really you just want them to get that one message, I guess, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So it really does come down to the goal. Okay, what is the goal of the content? People with video often think about the storytelling aspects, the linear delivery and revealing of a message, and put so much thought into that they can lose sight of why are they making a video in the first place, right? What's the outcome? And so the outcome and the goal is going to dictate the techniques and the features that you should use. Mm-hmm. So if it's performance support, right? Something that someone needs to get into and get out of really quickly to access and refresh themselves on, a sales tactic if they're in the middle of a process. Right. That type of learning content should use chapters. Clearly tell people what's in the video. Let them get right to it, right? Yeah. Obviously, that's very different from compliance, right? So in compliance, that's an interesting thing in compliance too. We've talked to compliance departments that are concerned about using video because they can't trust that people are actually watching it, right? That they're paying attention. Right. So there have been emerging techniques of, rather than the traditional, hey, watch this compliance video, now take this assessment at the end, a much more effective technique and one that builds trust with the compliance department is having a series of knowledge checks throughout the video that essentially interrupt the playback of the video. So present one topic, pause the video, give the knowledge check, because that makes sure someone doesn't play the video any further, right? Right. And then they can get feedback and you can get feedback about, how effectively that specific content in a section of the video is being communicated. And then you have a stream of data that is connected not to one 30-minute video, but to, say, 3 10-minute segments. Right. So it can help you as the creator understand how effective the content was, and it can make sure that you as a compliance department, that you can trust that the data that was collected was contextually at the right point in time, just like if you were in a classroom setting and you stopped and asked people before you moved on. So there's very different techniques depending on the training scenario or the marketing scenario. And you do have to understand first, what's the outcome that I want to measure? And then, researching the best practices that'll help you get there.
Fantastic. Kyle, I know I could ask you a million more questions, but I'll drop it there. But I want to say thanks so much for taking some time. This has been really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
And a great big thank you to Kyle Morton, founder of Hapyak. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to know more about Hapyak and what they do, you can go to hapyak.com. That's HAPYAK.com. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time on Training Insights.